Welcome to Batcast 66. It's the podcast where every so often we watch an episode of the Batman 66 television show and then we talk about it. Today is The Clock King's Crazy Crimes. It's episode 11 of season 2 and episode 45 of the series overall. This episode is directed by one James Nelson, not a name I really recognize. And it has two writers. One is Charles Sinclair, which maybe is a name I recognize. And then the other one is Bill Finger, which is a name every Bat fan should recognize.
Yeah, Bill Finger, arguably, I don't know if it's even arguable before, but was like the real creator of Batman. Bob Kane, from a lot of reports I've seen over the years, seemed like a real big douchebag, and took credit for a lot of artists' work on Batman, including like hiring artists to draw the stuff he was supposed to do, and then he get to sign it. But yeah, so Bill Finger, I didn't know he did an episode of the show, which is really exciting because this was before he got any credit. This was back when Bob Kane was still getting sole credit for Batman.
Yeah, it
So
was only
pretty
till
exciting.
pretty recently that Bill Finger kind of entered the conversation,
Yeah, it was after they were
like in a
both
big
dead,
way.
you
Yeah,
know?
which is a shame and like, a thing. I mean, we can get into it if we want to, but
Yeah.
the big two and I'm sure there are even examples on the indie side of things, but the
Yeah.
big two is notorious for people taking credit, more credit or all the credit when really that deserves to be shared with others.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting discussion for its own episode, in general, is, the comic industry and how some of these characters were created and how some their creators were compensated or not compensated. And it's not a thing that's exclusive to Batman or DC Comics. It was a big industry problem, and I'm sure a lot of it still happens today. Like you could write the best Batman comic story in years, and like you get no they can make like so many movies and things and makes $1 billion based on it, but you don't get any of that,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but
And yeah, I mean, like you have, Stan Lee is given so much credit at Marvel. And kind of just because he was like the public face of it. But like,
yeah,
like without Jack Kirby and without Steve Ditko, like, damn, Marvel would be nowhere.
especially oh my God, Jack Kirby. I was saying you just said his name. It's completely
Yeah,
slipped off
yeah.
my brain.
No, yeah. Kirby is like a creative, like, genius.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, and I mean it's not even regulated to like, these like, mid-century creators. Like pretty much Marvel Comics in the 90s was just like running, like the people making them money were like Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and Eric Larson. And like, they it was because of them that, their styles, the like fresh energy they were bringing, that like Marvel kind of like, for better or worse, like, really took the lead in the 90s, it felt like. And they they were lucky enough to be able to like successfully take that energy and, launch Image Comics and
yeah, like something that's actually like, I'm sure Image has got its own controversies and stuff, but like the idea was like they creators would could when they make stuff at Image, they get to own their characters.
yeah.
And it's still like that, to this day. But that's because those guys at Marvel were getting screwed over. So they went and just took their, like, they were big enough names that they were able, like, to take their stuff. Like, people follow Todd McFarlane stuff just because Todd McFarlane drew it. I'm not that big a fan of his, but like I definitely get why people,
Yeah. I mean,
would
like,
would, like, that's a creator you like. I do follow creators I like around the industry.
yeah, like Todd McFarlane, no one drew Spider-Man like that guy.
Yeah.
Like he was, and like granted, like his like human faces like weren't my favorite, but like
Spider-Man looked
Spider-Man,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
he looked incredible. The way he drew the Thing too was like
Yeah.
really nuts. And I mean like Jim Lee, like that dude, like back in the day, that guy was my favorite. of
I mean,
what?
he drew X-Men number one, which was like the best-selling comic of all time at the time.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think it's inflated because there was four covers and they all connected, so people bought all four. But
Yeah,
that's the
that makes
speculator
sense.
bubble in the '90s is of course a different color. But there was an interview with Robert Porfirio in 1972 with Bill Finger, where he had some stuff to say about working on this episode. In general, he found writing the TV show formula very limiting, but he did have proposed plans to do more. But the reason why he couldn't elaborate why he didn't contribute for further scripts. Apparently, Bob Kane had caused a significant delay in even this one because of a breakdown between Bill Finger and like Bob Kane, the lawyer. So obviously, he was probably trying to stamp down on him like doing more Batman things that like
That's
Bob Kane couldn't
crazy.
control. But here's a direct quote about from Bill Finger about the series in general. He's referring to Batman. He's never been done well. The costumes were great. It wasn't that the scripts were terrible. After all, I wrote one myself. It's just that they were a lampoon, a burlesque of Batman. They camped it up to the point where it wasn't serious at all. I felt there were times it could have been more, not grim, but a little more real. Certainly, with the multitudinous villains, you got overwhelmed and it got boring. There was always one after another. They should have just done some stories with interesting characters. The burlesque of it, the burlesque of it, they want to, but certainly within limits. It was a character of a character. You can't go on like that. You can't carry the burlesque so far that it becomes bad taste. This was in 1972, so it was like it was in between Batman's like big peaks in popularity. I think this was probably about when they were starting to just like pop culture in general was like starting to like shit on this show.
Oh yeah. I
So I
mean,
don't know how much of
probably
that
before
influences
that.
that, but I know Bill Finger, like the original Batman stuff, was more pulp and gritty.
Yes.
So I can definitely see him having like that mentality. So that's one of the main creative forces of Batman and creator of most of these characters had to say about the show, and I thought it was interesting. And I was like, how often am I going to bring it up?
Yeah.
I
That's
don't, I don't
pretty
necessarily agree
cool.
with him, but I do understand some of his points.
Yeah. I mean, and I think where we are now, like we're a little spoiled. Like
Yes.
as much as I love this show, I don't know if I would love it as much if we didn't have other
Yeah, we are spoiled because we have
versions.
such a wide variety of Batman style stories
Yeah.
that like
Like,
yeah, I can appreciate this as its own thing because I can appreciate a bunch of different other takes on the character.
yeah. And like I do love this take a lot. Like,
Yeah. I love the silly. This is the kind of stuff that like maybe not this specifically, but like superheroes to me aren't are more are interesting when they're fun and like a little more lighthearted and colorful.
yes.
Like
Um,
I that Snyder stuff is boring and terrible in my
yeah.
opinion.
And I think like maybe the perfect, Batman exists like in between those two.
Hmm.
Like, but I just like love that there's so many, like, I love this version. I love the animated series. I think Brave and the Bold is like in between those two things, and I love that.
Yeah. I love the Dark Knight. And we love Batman 89. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many different versions of him now since the
Yeah.
70s.
So, yeah, I totally understand though why people were feeling the way they were feeling back then.
Yeah. Because this was the main way that the public knew what Batman was until Tim Burton's movie, like 20
Truly,
years
yeah.
later.
So, yeah,
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I was really excited that Bill Finger got to work on the show, and like that's cool.
yeah, very cool.
I didn't know I'm surprised it went this long without even like having heard that he did that. Because I've been
Same.
hearing about the Bob Kane, Bill Finger like problems with like, who created Batman, who created what over the years.
Yeah, well, we definitely have an interesting episode ahead of us. And yeah, I didn't really catch that he
Yeah.
was the writer at the top.
Yeah, I
So
saw that. I got really get stoked because I think in the credits of this, I think it says characters created like based on characters created by Bob Kane. I think he was still getting sole credit back at this time.
That makes sense.
To be
Yeah.
fair, I never watched to the end of the credits because usually I'm like writing some notes and stuff. But we got other things to talk about. Like we got a new villain here, the Clock King.
Yeah. So, Scott, what's your relationship with this guy?
So Clock King's kind of always been like a minor Batman character for me, like floating around in like different things. He's using like the anime universe. I really like him in the Brave and the Bold. But like in those, he's dressed like a king with like a clock face. And I find that a lot of fun. But apparently he's been around since 1960 in World's Finest Comics 111. Is
Whoa.
his first appearance.
What does he
Uh,
look like back then? Do you know?
I don't have a picture up of him,
Let's see.
but I gotta imagine he looks pretty goofy.
All right. Maybe this is harder than I thought to find his first appearance. He's had some cool costumes though.
Yeah, I like I said, clocks are kind of an interesting like thing to base your stuff around. Um, I don't know. I think it's fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun to have another comic book character we haven't seen yet in the 1966 show.
Yeah. So like my first appearance with him is in the animated series. And
Yeah,
like
that would have been the first time I saw him too.
yeah, he's like very much everything has to like run on time for him.
Hmm.
And then like what happens? He like misses his train and his life falls apart or something.
I forget exactly what it was, but I remember his design. If I remember, he was like kind of a guy in a suit, and he wore glasses that had like clocks on them, right? In that
Yeah,
show.
yeah. That's like yeah, he's just like wearing a suit and a bowler cap.
I think
Bowler
that's
hat.
based on like his look in like the 80s comics,
Cool.
like when he was in Justice League International.
Yeah, he I don't really know much of him beyond this and Brave and the Bold. Apparently he was an Arrow.
Yeah, I saw that, but I could not get into Arrow.
Yeah, I never even tried. I just like the name Arrow. It's just like, okay, you're embarrassed by your source material. So
Exactly. And the fact that just they didn't make a Green Arrow show, they made a crappy Batman show.
yeah. So anyway,
Well, apparently
um,
in the comics currently, he has the always active ability to see what's about to happen 4 seconds or so in the future, allowing him to anticipate an opponent's every move. That's not something he originally had. He just was
interesting.
into like clocks and planning precise, specific plans down to the moment, like the minute. But all right, yeah. But so this Clock King is played by Walter Slezak
Walter Sleezak. That's a
or
crazy name.
Slezik. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Probably more like Slezik. I think I'm just thinking Slezak like Sleestaks from Land of the Lost.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't recognize any of the other stuff that he was into. Apparently, he committed suicide in the 80s. So I don't maybe I don't know why I didn't look into it beyond that, but I thought he was a lot of fun in this.
Oh yeah. He really hams it up. He knows what they're looking for.
I get like King Tut vibes from him.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with this guy, but I guess we'll save it. Shall we get into the episode?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. We open up at Harry Humert's jewelry store. Uh there's a customer shopping there and Harry's showing her around and she, admires this new addition to the store, this crazy clock he got. And it actually is a pretty cool looking clock. But us, the viewer, quickly learns that there's a camera in the clock and
Mhm.
a mysterious robed gentleman who will soon come to learn is the Clock King is watching with his uh underling Millie, which I wonder if that's short for like millisecond.
Yeah, her name's Millie Second.
Oh, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
I missed that whole part. So I guess that is true. I
Yep.
like that his goons are called second hands.
Yeah, I think that's fun.
Yeah, they're just watching, and back at the jewelry store, the clock begins to like ring, but it's like not on the hour.
Yeah, because I think because they pulled out jewelry or whatever, so this like lady could see it. I think that's why they set it off like manually themselves.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, what the heck's going on in here? And they all go to investigate.
To
And
be
then the
fair, it's a
clock,
pretty cool clock. When it goes off, a lot of things happen.
oh yeah, it is a very cool clock. Clocks are cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I appreciate a good clock. But yeah, this clock shoots knockout gas.
like everything does.
Yeah. So yeah, they pass out and the second hands come out and start raiding the jewelry store.
Yeah, and
We cut to some time later and Gordon gets a call and he gets the skinny on what went down and him and O'Hara quickly deduce like, oh, a clock was involved. It has to be the Clock King.
well, yeah, why not?
Why not? So yeah, they know that they can't handle this guy. They can't handle anything really. So you know what they're gonna do. Cut to Wayne Manor. Aunt Harriet is just being kind of annoying.
Yeah, she's being really weird, and like they're all being really awkward with each other. It's very strange.
It is so weird. I wonder if there was like more to this scene that was cut out.
I don't know.
Because like it feels like it's supposed to be like a Aunt Harriet kind of not centric episode, but she does play into the plot.
Yeah,
But like, yeah, this scene is just so weird. So she's basically saying like Bruce and Dick are playing chess, and she's saying she doesn't pay enough attention to them, which I don't know how she could believe is true, but
yeah,
they tell her it's a-okay. Dick puts Bruce into check, and then yeah, Alfred lets them know that the bat phone is ringing. And even here, like, isn't Bruce a little like dismissive of it at first?
yeah. It was a little like, oh, why don't they usually run? Because like that means something bad's happening.
Yeah, but he's like, oh, like whatever. And then like Alfred has to be like, actually, no.
It's the bat phone.
So, they race off. We cut to the Clock King's hideout and he's basking in his triumph.
Hmm.
And then like it's the hour is almost up, and like all of his goons are like, oh crap, this is about to happen again. And then
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
yeah,
Like all of his millions of clocks go off at once.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So the dynamic duo, they don't go to police headquarters, they go right to the
Crime
jewelry
scene.
store.
Yeah, is there like with the clock king, you can't like have a moment to spare, which is
Yep.
fun. It makes sense.
Yeah. Um, and the guy, Henry, what was his name? Henry Hermit.
Henry Hummer, yes, the Henry
Hermit.
Hummer jewelry or Harry Hummer jewelry shop.
Um, yeah, he's like, oh, I got it from this gallery.
Yeah, he bought it from this auction house.
Yeah,
So they go to the auction house to find out who brought the item in to be auctioned.
yeah. So meanwhile, Clock King, this confused me a little bit because Clock King is like, okay, we're gonna hit this gallery, but it implies that he was already there. So I don't know. It
It's
felt
a
a
different
little
kind of gallery because he means an art gallery, and this the auction house is called the Parkhurst Gallery.
no, that it's the same gallery. Because
I
this is
mean,
also called the Parkhurst Gallery. This is the same place.
they discovered the clock was bought at the Parkhurst Gallery, is what
Yeah,
this.
and then they go talk to that guy, and it's the curator. Scott, I promise you, it's
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. Then does yeah. What the hell?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Well, whatever.
So
I like the scene there.
it is very cool. So Batman and Robin are at the gallery, and the guy running it, he's like, "Oh, we're setting up for this pop art exhibit." I
Yeah,
think they're like trying to make like I don't really know, like maybe they're trying to poke a little bit of fun at the pop art movement that was happening in the 60s, but I this show is very much a part of that movement.
oh yeah, it's very much a part of it. And like in my notes, I wrote this when we do see the pop art exhibit, like it's awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I would love to go see that.
It's very fun. So yeah, the Clock King's like, all right, we're gonna hit this gallery first, and then our next plan is to hit a certain old lady who lives in the home of a millionaire.
Yeah, which we
Which,
can. I thought was pretty. It was granted it's a fun little bit of foreshadowing, but like it was pretty obvious what that was meant.
yeah. And then one of the second hands is like, oh, well, what about Batman and Robin? And the Clock King, he goes on this whole monologue. He calls them shadows on the sundial of criminal genius, which I
which is
I
aw-
appreciate when villains have their
yeah,
theme in their monologue. And the Clock King, they do that a lot.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of fun time stuff you like and puns and things you can do.
Yeah,
It's a good gimmick. It's just in terms of just like aesthetics and things you can do. I don't know how much like traps and things you'll eventually be able to do with it, but
it is fun.
it is fun.
Um, so yeah, Batman and Robin find out that that clock was sold by Mr. Kronos.
Which I was really excited about because I've been playing Hades 2 a lot. And
Oh,
like Kronos is the main bad guy of that one. And like there's lots of time puns and related things in that game.
oh, so timely.
Exactly.
Um, so Robin, who, all right, a couple episodes ago, it was shown that he was like studying Greek.
Hmm.
And like a lot of times scenes like that will come back into play within that story. I'm sure this was so unintentional, but Robin's the one who's like, oh, like Chronos, like that's the Greek
Greek word
word
for
for
time.
time.
Hmm.
So I thought that was kind of fun, even
Yeah.
though I doubt it was intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and it was also the Titan before that as the father of all the gods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's why I think it's unintentional because like it just so happened that they mentioned that in an earlier episode.
Mm,
But if we're gonna accept this as like a world, like
it's cool.
yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Batman thinks they might be able to find a lead at Dunbar Drive-In.
I was like, why would they go there? But apparently one of his former malls, Thelma timepiece, like worked there.
Yeah,
I
so
just I just loved the idea, like the visual of the Batmobile pulling up in a drive-in,
oh
and
yeah,
like
that's great.
it's it's really awesome.
Well, and I also love the idea that they're like, hey, like, let's check it, like, because we're all about reforming people in this series.
Yeah, I really appreciate
And
that.
it's like, hey, there's a reformed member of his gang. Let's like ask her for help.
Yeah, they may have reached out to her or something.
Yeah. Um, so she's not there, which I think from a creative standpoint, like, is kind of a shame. I feel like we miss out on something cool.
Yeah, because
But
she could have easily been the waitress that helped them
yeah,
and just
but
been like, well, no, I don't know anything about it. They haven't reached out to me or whatever.
mhm. Like, yeah, like it would have been cool to have to like see that interaction and
So when
see.
she mentioned they weren't there, I was like, oh, is that she going to be working with them or is that their new mall? Like they have a different name now or something, but like she doesn't come up again, which is
Yeah,
more realistic than like, yeah, sometimes people just anticipate, like aren't there.
yeah. Well, they say she like moved back home to the Midwest.
Yeah.
So
While they're there, they're like, oh, might as well get lunch.
yeah. So they Robin orders a couple hamburgers for them.
Yeah.
And then the waitress recommends their new menu item, bat burgers.
Which is just hamburgers, but you put Bert like bat in front of it.
Yeah, and I think that's like the show poking fun at itself.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, they order a couple of those and you know, I thought that was a lot of fun. Just seeing Batman and Robin like be out and about and like we're interacting with regular society is one of my favorite like little bits of this show. And how like people are both like, wow, it's Batman and Robin, and then other people are like just really nonchalant, like just treating them like normal people. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Another thing I love is what goes down at the gallery next.
Yes, now we get to see the pop art exhibit.
Yeah.
And I can't describe it, but like it's just lots of really cool, interesting pop art pieces.
Yeah, like
Like
everything is bright and like, yeah, it
it,
all
it
pops.
it's just really cool. Like if you watch this episode just for that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And when they walk into this room, I'm like, ooh, I hope there's a fight because there's lots of stuff you can like smash into.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, Clock King, yeah, they're like filming it too because there's like a TV camera there,
Yeah. So they're filming about this new exhibit and uh Clock King disguised as a pop artist named Progress Pigment.
which is a great name.
Really good. Uh he comes in and he has a piece he wants to share.
Yeah, and he calls like everyone else's pieces there like garbage.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like and it's a really fun like beatniky artist design from like the from that time period.
Yeah, he's like wearing a beret and
Got
sunglasses,
like a
and he has like a,
goatee.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's cool. He's like in a big like smocky dress kind of thing.
Yeah. Does he have that painting with Batman falling through like a but it's like it's almost Dali.
Yeah, it's like a Dolly thing, but like it's got Batman and Robin in it. And I think that was just there.
Yeah, kind of, but they're like falling through the sky and there's all these like pocket watches.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be like Dolly's like that melting clock thing just with Batman and Robin in it. Just so
Yeah,
happened to be there.
which is a little too coincidental, but
Yeah.
anyway,
But yeah, he's there he and his guys are wheeling in something big and under like a sheet.
yeah, and he unveils a uh
Like
giant clock that feels like it comes out of like Pee-wee's Playhouse episode.
yeah, it's like a mechanical like statuary like display. It's called Time Out of Joint.
Yes.
Um, it's kind of like like a clock that's not like exploded, but like exploded out. So like you see gears and stuff, but there's like parts of it that like are like a face. It's but like he turns it on and like it starts moving and like parts start spinning and like it makes a lot of noise.
Yeah,
Um,
and people are kind of like afraid of this.
I mean it's to be fair with supervillains and stuff in this city, like and this guy just rolling up and nobody knowing who he is, I probably would be nervous as well. But like it's kind of cool. Like it seems like something I would see at the Franklin Institute because it like teaches you like motion or something.
Yeah, I get that. Like, or this is how a clock works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Batman and Robin are like watching this on the TV in the Batmobile.
Yeah, they're just in there eating their lunch and it's like, oh yeah, they would eat, while they're out on the case. This probably happens a lot.
Yeah. And they're like, huh, could this progress pigment guy be the Clock King?
Yeah.
And it's so funny. And like they're like, okay, well, like we'll run this broadcast, like we'll compare this broadcast to like a printout from the back computer.
Yeah, they get the Bat computer to print out a picture of him in the Batmobile because that's a super handy thing to just have the ability to do in the Batmobile. Batman like has special compartments for like pens and stuff, and he starts to draw on the picture like the disguise and like, oh my god, it's him. It's like if they ever had a picture of Clark Kent and drew glasses or Superman and drew glasses on him, like, oh my god, it was Clark Kent.
Yeah.
It's very silly and funny.
Yeah, pretty ridiculous, but a lot of fun.
But yeah, there's like a jigsaw attached to part of the statue that's like cutting a big hole in the wall next to where it is. It's being like covered up by like the sounds and things that it's making.
Yeah, a cool bit of like production cheating.
Yeah, especially funny because like you can see in like once there's the hole in the wall, you can see that it's just like a foam wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Batman and Robin show up to the gallery and there's a fight.
Yeah, but they had already gotten into the next room, which is I guess where they were keeping all of like the valuable paintings, which might have been on display in there before the pop art thing. But like Clock King's there to steal like a specific timepiece related painting. I don't know if it is the Dolly, like it's supposed to be the Dolly thing. I don't think it is.
Yeah, it doesn't really come up, does it?
Yeah, they don't say what it is. He just says it's a masterpiece, and it doesn't really look like it, but like it's very evocative of it. I think maybe it was just supposed to be something similar, but I don't know if it's like an actual painting that I like is famous.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't.
just not aware of.
Um, well, the Clock King and his gang get away, but Clock King drops his watch.
Yeah, I would say yeah, they do have a big fight in this thing where they're able to use like the art and stuff to like fight with, which is what I wanted. But yeah, well, because Batman and Robin after they defeat his goons are like, well, we're gonna start fighting you now, Clock King. He's like, wait, I have this valuable painting. Let me just go put it down so we don't destroy it. And of course, they're like, yes, of course. But yeah, he drops a watch and is able to spring another thing on his piece that put like I don't know, like a slinky type thing around Batman and Robin. It seems like it's really not holding them in place, but it apparently is.
Yeah, you know how they do in this show.
Yeah, and he uses that to like escape with the goods.
So they analyze this wristwatch and it leads them to the TikTok Synthetic Rubies Incorporated. And they're like, oh, this must be his hideout. So yeah, they head up there and they begin to bat climb.
Yeah. and you recognized who this is, right?
Sammy Davis Jr.
So yeah, they mentioned that this building was like abandoned, like the company went out of business like 4 years ago or something. Why is Sammy Davis Jr. there?
I mean, what I'm not personally friends with anybody on the level of fame that Sammy Davis Jr. is, but like I don't know, me and all my friends are all making art in old warehouses. It's
Fair
just like
enough.
cheap rehearsal space.
Fair enough. But yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. was pretty fun. Also because it was someone I recognized right away.
Yeah, so handsome.
He's not a bad looking guy.
So it turns out that this whole thing was a deliberate trap because Clock King has greased the floors with like watch oil.
Yeah, which makes sense why, because it didn't seem like he accidentally dropped his watch. It seemed like he very specifically like took it off, put it on the ground. I thought it was going to explode in like a smoke bomb, is how he was going to get
Mm.
away. Um, but yeah, so they were able to, because Batman and Robin are just slipping and sliding everywhere. They're able to get hit with like knockout gas that comes out of very realistic looking pistols. I thought they were just supposed to be guns.
Which, like, why not?
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of knockout gas in this one,
Yeah.
but
Uh, when they come to, they're in a giant, they're like inside of a giant hourglass without their utility belts.
yeah, at least they thought to take the utility belts from them this time.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Hmm. And I also want to point out this. It was nice to see a properly themed death trap. I feel like we haven't had one of those in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I think it's been since season one.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Like Catwoman and the minstrel just like put them in like a barbecue situation.
Yeah.
They just put a bomb in his car in the last one, and I don't
Yeah.
remember what happened before then.
Yeah, the barbecue thing was so weird.
Oh yeah, the archer just had them tied up. Well, his was like a medieval thing, so like, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's been a minute. But yeah, I like seeing the big goofy prop. It's a giant hourglass with like pink sand in it. But yeah, Batman and Robin are in the bottom part, and the death trap springs, and they're gonna get buried in sand and suffocate to death.
The episode asks us if this is 0 hour for Batman and Robin. I guess
Yeah,
we'll have to find out next week.
of course, Zero has a special meaning with DC Comics.
Yes.
It was a I was trying to remember what that event is about, and I just could not remember without looking it up.
Oh yeah, isn't it like Hal Jordan is like blowing up the
Yeah, it's
stream?
like something about like the end of time is all I remember. It was
Yeah.
in the 90s and like everywhere.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're both just picked because that's a regular time related phrase. But yeah, I was surprised they did 0 hour and like time up for Batman, you know.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I dug this. And I'm excited for the next part, you know? Because yeah, we know he's supposed to do something. It clearly foreshadowed Aunt Harriet and Bruce Wayne being like the next part of his scheme, and then there was something beyond that.
Yeah, they do a really good job.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Yeah, this was another really good episode.
Sears is starting to hit its stride a little bit again.
Yeah, it feels like maybe the beginning of the season was like a little rough. I mean, like there were definitely episodes I enjoyed, but like I just think The Archer was a really bad start.
It was a really bad start.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see if it's time for Batman and Robin to meet their maker next week. Join
Their
us here.
watchmaker.
Oh, yeah. Join us here, same Batcast time, same Batcast channel.